poor girl forced to marry a poor man, unaware he's a secret billionaire love story. Sometimes, one desperate debt doesn't just cost money. It costs a dream, a future, even a daughter's freedom. This is the story of Emma Carter, the poor girl forced into marriage with a man everyone believed was nothing, unaware of the powerful secret he carried. Hello, family. Welcome to Love and Luxuries. Please subscribe and leave a comment for us. It means the world to us. Also, share this video to your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. The neighborhood of Willow Creek was where dreams came to starve. The cracked asphalt roads were coated with dust that clung to everything: shoes, cars, even the souls of the people who walked on them. Broken swings creaked in empty playgrounds. Children with hollow laughter chased each other past boarded-up stores and abandoned motels. Hope didn't live here anymore. It had packed its bags long ago. And in the middle of this forgotten place lived Emma Carter, a 1-year-old girl with tired eyes and quiet strength carved deep into her soul. She wasn't beautiful because of perfect makeup or fancy earrings. She barely owned any. She was beautiful in a softer way, like morning light breaking through dirty windows. Her wavy brown hair was always tied back, her clothes faded, her hands rough from chores, but there was something about her presence that felt like calm before a storm. But her life had been anything but calm. Ever since her mother died 3 years ago, Emma had known only pain. Her father, Frank Carter, once a decent mechanic, drowned his grief in whiskey, gambling, and bad company. And when the bottles weren't enough, he brought home a new wife, Carla, a sharp-tongued woman who treated Emma like unpaid labor. "Emma!" Carla's voice tore through the humid afternoon air like broken glass. "Are you deaf? Where's my water?" Emma hurried over, carrying a chipped glass of cold water, her arms sore from scrubbing the floors since sunrise. "Yes, ma'am," she whispered, placing it carefully on the shaky wooden table. Carla snatched it without a thank you, sneering. "You're just like your mother, useless and slow." Emma forced her breath to steady. Words burned her tongue, but she swallowed them. She had learned long ago that answering back would only earn her bruises. Only one thing kept her grounded: Mikey, her 7-year-old stepbrother, who still hugged her tightly each night and whispered, "Emma, don't leave me." She would endure anything for him. But that night, everything changed. The sun had barely set when Frank Carter stumbled into the house, reeking of sweat and cheap liquor. But tonight, he wasn't alone. 2 tall men followed him inside, dressed in black, their tattoos winding up their arms like snakes, ready to strike. Emma froze where she was kneeling by the stove, mixing cornbread dough in a dented bowl. "Where's the money, Frank?" the first man growled, slamming his fist on the table so hard the water glass tipped over. I just need more time," Frank stammered, wiping sweat from his forehead with shaky hands. "I swear I'll get it. I'm working on a job. You've been saying that for months," the second man sneered. "You owe $8,000, midnight, or we collect in other ways." Emma's breath caught. $8,000. Frank looked around wildly, his voice cracked. "Look, I have something else to offer." Emma's heart stopped. The tattooed man raised an eyebrow. "Yeah? Like what?" Frank swallowed. And then the moment Emma would remember for the rest of her life, he pointed at her. "Her, his daughter. Take her," he said weakly. "She's young, strong. She can work. That should count for something." Emma dropped the wooden spoon with a clatter. "Dad?" The men looked at each other, amused. "We're not running a maid service," one laughed. "Unless you're saying marriage." Frank's eyes filled with desperate light. Yes, marriage. Let your boss or someone take her as a wife. Then my debt is gone." Emma fell to her knees. "Daddy, please, I'm your daughter." Frank shoved her away. "You're nothing but a burden. Be grateful someone's willing to take you in." Carla folded her arms and smirked. "Good. One less mouth to feed." Little Mikey peeked from the doorway, tears streaming down his face. "Emma?" Emma's world shattered. The next morning, the story spread through Willow Creek like wildfire. "Frank Carter is giving away his daughter to clear a loan." Most people shrugged. In this town, pain wasn't surprising, it was expected. But somewhere across town, at a small auto repair garage near the dusty road exit, Ethan Donovan paused mid-repair when he overheard the conversation from a group of mechanics. "Carter's selling his daughter off to whoever can clear his debt." One laughed darkly. Another snorted. "Who'd even want her? He's broke. She's got nothing." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had been in Willow Creek for 6 months now, wearing faded jeans, old boots, and grease-stained shirts. People believed he was just a quiet, struggling mechanic's apprentice from nowhere special. They had no idea he was actually Ethan Donovan. Birth name Ethan Michael Donovan, heir to Donovan Holdings, one of the wealthiest private construction empires in the country. But he didn't want a wife who loved him for his money. He wanted someone who would choose him, even when he had nothing. And now, he had a choice to make. That evening, Ethan stood in front of Frank Carter's house. "I'll take her," he said quietly, "as my wife." Emma looked at him in disbelief. They barely knew each other beyond a few quiet nods at the nearby grocery stand. Frank grinned. "Good. Then we're done here," Emma whispered, tears falling. "Please, don't take me." But her father only spat and walked away, with nothing but a small, faded backpack of worn clothes. Emma followed this quiet, mysterious man into a future she didn't understand. Emma believed she had been forced to marry a broke mechanic. But halfway through their journey, one phone call would make her question everything she thought she knew about Ethan Donovan. Emma thought she had married a poor mechanic in a dusty town, but as the city lights rose like giants before her eyes, subtle cracks in Ethan's poverty began to show. And secrets don't stay buried forever. The bus rattled as it rolled away from Willow Creek, leaving behind broken fences, dusty yards, and Emma's childhood memories crumbling in the rearview mirror like old paper. She sat by the window, hugging her small bag to her chest. Her fingers were trembling not from cold, but from fear. She didn't know this man beside her, didn't know where they were going, didn't know who she'd be forced to become. Ethan sat beside her quietly, his elbows resting on his knees, eyes focused on the road with calm certainty, as though he already knew how their story would go. He didn't try to touch her, didn't talk too much, didn't act like someone who had just taken a wife. That unsettled her more than anger would have. An hour into the journey, exhaustion weighed her eyelids down. Eventually, she drifted off, her head resting unknowingly against the window. She woke up, not to harsh words or sudden commands, but to a quiet voice. "Emma, you should eat something." She blinked to see Ethan holding out a sandwich and a bottle of water. A small gesture, unexpected, human. "Thank you," she whispered, accepting it with shaking hands. He nodded once and said nothing more. For the first time since her father betrayed her, she ate without a knot of fear in her throat. By sunset, they entered the outskirts of the city, an entirely different world compared to Willow Creek. Glass buildings stretched toward the sky like they were trying to touch hope itself. Neon signs flickered across billboards. Cars whooshed past, shiny and loud. People in business suits walked fast, looking like they had places to be and dreams to chase. Emma stared out the window, her mouth slightly open. Her heart pounded faster, not from fear now, but awe. The bus dropped them near a quiet residential street lined with tall trees and gated houses. Ethan picked up her bag and simply said, "This way." They walked past a massive cream-colored mansion surrounded by a black iron fence and garden lights that glowed like fireflies. Emma froze, panic rising. "Please, not here. I can't live like a servant in a mansion." But Ethan turned left, leading her past the mansion into a smaller, neat side building tucked behind it. It was modest but beautiful, freshly painted, with clean steps, potted flowers at the door, and warm lights glowing softly through the windows. He unlocked the door and stepped aside. "This is where I live," he said simply. Her eyes watered slightly, not out of sadness, but relief. It was more than she ever expected. No peeling walls, no broken roof, no yelling, just quiet. Inside was a small sitting room with a couch, a tidy kitchen, and a bedroom with a neatly made bed. Emma walked in slowly, as though afraid to break something. "This is your room, too," Ethan said, voice steady. "But don't worry, I won't touch you unless you want me to. I know this wasn't your choice." Those words made her chest tighten. No man had given her that kind of respect before. She nodded silently. That night, Ethan slept on the couch and told her softly, "You can lock the bedroom door if it helps." Emma did. Then she cried silently into the blanket, not from fear, but from the strangest emotion she hadn't felt in years: safety. The next morning, she woke up to the smell of frying eggs. She stepped into the kitchen and saw Ethan by the stove, cooking. "For you," he said, placing a plate on the table. "You must be hungry." She hesitated. "You cooked?" "Someone had to," he replied casually. She sat down slowly, every bite tasting like warmth she'd never known. After breakfast, Ethan placed a small piece of paper on the table. "I want you to meet someone this afternoon." "Who?" she asked nervously. "You'll see," he said with a hint of a mysterious smile. Later, they walked to the front mansion. Emma clutched her fingers anxiously. Ethan rang the bell. The door opened, and standing there was Mrs. Evelyn Lawson, an elegant woman in her 50s, dressed simply but with grace that felt expensive. Her smile was warm and knowing. "Ethan," she said, hugging him gently, before turning to Emma with kind eyes. "So, this is your wife?" Emma stiffened, cheeks flushing. "Wife," Ethan nodded. "Emma Carter. Now, Emma Donovan." Emma's breath caught. "Donovan." Mrs. Lawson clasped Emma's hands. "You are very welcome here, sweetheart. Please feel safe. If you need anything, come to me." Her kindness felt unfamiliar but comforting. When they returned home, Ethan sat at the table quietly. Emma hesitated, then whispered, "Thank you for not being like him." Ethan's gaze softened. "I would never hurt you, Emma." She wanted to believe him. She almost did. A few days later, while sweeping, Emma heard Ethan's phone ring outside. She moved to hand it to him, but froze when she read the caller ID. "Boardroom." It was Ard. Ethan answered, and his voice changed. It wasn't the quiet mechanic anymore. It was polished, confident, commanding. "Yes, schedule the shipment. Email the contract revisions to my assistant. Make sure the investors are ready by Friday." Emma stood still. Shipment? Contracts? Investors? Assistant? When he slipped the phone back into his pocket, he looked up to see her staring. He simply smiled slightly. "What's for dinner?" he asked casually, walking past her like nothing happened. Emma's heart beat faster. This wasn't just a poor mechanic, and deep inside, she knew. Ethan Donovan was hiding something far bigger than his past. She married a man everyone said was broke. But one phone call told a different story. And now, Emma couldn't shake the question pounding in her chest. Who exactly is my husband? Days turned into weeks, and Emma slowly began to adapt to city life. She woke early, cleaned their little home, cooked simple meals, and watered the flowers on the tiny balcony Ethan had planted long before she came. In the evenings, she quietly read from old school books Ethan had bought for her from a thrift store. Sometimes, Ethan sat beside her and helped her with the longer words. He never laughed when she mispronounced something. He simply guided her, gently. Patience in every correction. "See this," he once said, pointing at a period. "When you see this dot, take a breath." She smiled softly. "Okay, teacher Ethan," he chuckled. "One day, you'll teach me something too." They were not lovers yet, but a slow, fragile comfort grew like a small flame between them. But there was something else too. A shadow. The phone calls labeled boardroom. The confident tone of a man used to power. The way expensive cars occasionally slowed down when passing him like they recognized him. Emma pushed her suspicions aside until the day Ethan came home with a brown envelope. "I spoke to someone I trust," Ethan said over dinner. "There's a small diner nearby, looking for extra help in the afternoon. A few hours a day. It will pay enough for you to have your own money." Emma's fork froze midair. "My own money?" she whispered, disbelief and excitement mixing in her eyes. Ethan nodded. "Your life shouldn't depend on someone else's pocket, not even mine." Emma blinked back sudden tears. "Thank you." He shrugged casually, but there was warmth in his voice. "It's not a gift, it's a start." The next day, Emma started working at Sunny Spoon, a cozy little diner famous for its chili, cornbread, and sweet tea. The owner, Aunt Debbie, a cheerful woman in her late 40s with a loud laugh and soft heart, welcomed Emma with open arms. "You're Ethan's wife," she grinned. "Honey, you married a good man. Quiet, but solid." Emma looked at her, curiosity stirring. "You know him well?" Debbie laughed. "I know when a man walks with purpose. He's not like most folks around here." Emma wondered what that meant. 3 weeks into her job, he walked in. Lucas Hayes. Tall, expensively dressed, hair perfectly styled, a watch that cost more than most people's cars. He walked like he owned the pavement, and maybe he did. Most importantly, he was known as the nephew of Mr. Lawson, the wealthy landlord who owned the entire property complex where Ethan lived. Lucas sat at table 7, scanning the room like a man searching for entertainment. When his eyes landed on Emma, he paused, then smiled. Slow and smooth. "New face?" he asked Aunt Debbie as she passed. "That's Emma," Debbie said proudly. "Hardest worker I've seen, and sweet as sunshine." Lucas's gaze didn't leave Emma. Interesting. When Emma came to take his order, Lucas leaned back casually. "So, you're Ethan's wife?" Emma stiffened slightly. "Yes, sir." "Drop the sir," he said with a grin. "Makes me feel old." Emma didn't smile back. "What would you like to order?" Lucas chuckled. "Straight to business." "I like that. Chili bowl, extra cornbread." Every time he came back, he sat at the same table, watched her the same way, left big tips, and always smiled like he was waiting for her to make a mistake. One afternoon, it rained softly, drumming against the windows. The diner was quiet. Only Lucas sat inside, idly stirring his coffee. Aunt Debbie had stepped out to buy supplies, leaving Emma and the cook in the back. Lucas approached the counter. "Emma, right?" She nodded. He slid a sleek business card toward her. "You know you don't belong here, right?" She frowned slightly. "I'm working here because I want to." "No," he said smoothly. "You're working here because your husband is a broke mechanic who can't provide better." Emma stiffened. "My husband is a good man." Lucas stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Good doesn't pay bills. Good doesn't get you out of this neighborhood. Good doesn't give you the life you deserve." He tapped the card. "I can?" Her heart pounded. She didn't touch the card. Lucas watched her for a moment, then smirked. "You're loyal. That's rare. And attractive." Emma turned away to clear a table. He followed her with his gaze and spoke softly. "You don't even know who your husband really is, do you?" Emma froze. Before she could respond, Lucas walked out into the rain, leaving her with a shiver she couldn't explain. That evening, Emma said nothing to Ethan. She couldn't. Not until she understood. Late at night, while cleaning, she accidentally kicked something under the couch. She bent down and pulled out a sleek, black document case. Curiosity battled fear. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside were official documents, some with gold seals, a passport photo of Ethan. But the name below wasn't Ethan Carter or Ethan anything. It read, Ethan Michael Donovan, CEO heir, Donovan Global Construction. Emma gasped, stepping back. Her husband wasn't who he said he was. Not poor, not ordinary, not just a mechanic. And suddenly, Lucas's voice rang in her head like a haunting echo. "You don't even know who your husband really is, do you?" She refused the rich man's offer. But now, with a stranger's name staring back at her from her husband's secret documents, Emma wasn't sure who she had chosen. Ethan Donovan. That moment had finally come. Emma stood frozen in the living room, the black document case open on the table like a wound she couldn't close. Every paper she touched confirmed the same terrifying truth. Her husband was not Ethan Carter. He was Ethan Michael Donovan, the son of a global construction empire. The man she thought was a broke mechanic was a billionaire in disguise. Her hands trembled as she clutched the bank statement showing amounts she couldn't even read without her breath catching. A passport bore his photo, but a different name, a different life. She wasn't sure how long she stood there before she heard the door open. Ethan stepped in, holding a takeout bag of dinner. He stopped mid-step when he saw her, the open case, the look in her eyes. Slowly, he set the bag down. For a moment, silence screamed louder than any words. Emma's voice broke first. "Who are you?" Ethan closed his eyes and exhaled. Then, He walked over and gently shut the document case. "You weren't supposed to find that yet," he said quietly. Emma's voice cracked with betrayal. "So it's true? You're not who you said you were?" His eyes met hers, soft but raw. "My name is Ethan Donovan. I am one of the heirs to Donovan Global Construction." Emma took a shaky step back. "Why?" she whispered. "Why pretend to be poor? Why lie to me? Was all this just a game?" Ethan took a step forward, voice breaking slightly. "No, it wasn't a game. None of what I gave you was fake, especially not the peace, especially not the respect. That was real." Emma's tears flowed. "You let me believe we were both struggling. You let me work at a cheap diner to earn pennies when you had millions. You watched me cry at night thinking you were all I had, and it was all based on a lie." Ethan's hands balled into fists, not in anger, but pain. "Emma, I needed to know. I needed to see if someone could love me without the money, without the name. All my life, I've been a bank account, not a man. Women didn't love me, they loved what I could give them. I wanted someone who would stay with me when I had nothing." Emma sobbed. "But you weren't nothing. You were pretending to be. You chose this for yourself." "I had no choice." Ethan flinched. She wiped her tears with shaking fingers. "Did you marry me to test me?" His voice softened. "No, I married you because the day your father tried to trade you like a debt token, something inside me broke. You were crying for help, and no one cared. I couldn't walk away." Emma shook her head. "You pitied me." He stepped forward. "At first. But then I saw the way you smiled when we had nothing. The way you appreciated a quiet room and a plate of eggs like they were gold. The way you read every night, trying to build yourself piece by piece. The way you said you felt safe for the first time." His voice cracked. "Emma, I didn't stay with you out of pity. I fell in love with you out of truth." Emma squeezed her eyes shut. "Don't say that. I love you," he said softly. "With or without money. But I needed you to love me without it too." Emma stepped back. "I don't know what's real anymore." Before he could speak again, a loud bang hit the door, followed by a voice she dreaded. "Ethan Donovan, open this door right now." Emma's blood ran cold. She knew that voice. Her father. The door burst open before Ethan could react. Frank Carter stormed in, breathless and sweaty. And behind him, Lucas Hayes. Emma's stomach twisted. Frank pointed at Ethan, eyes wild with greed. "So it's true. You're a Donovan, a billionaire's son. My daughter married into money and didn't tell me?" Lucas smirked from behind him, folding his arms. "Told you, Emma. You didn't even know who your husband really was." Ethan stepped protectively in front of Emma, calm but sharp. "Mr. Carter, you need to leave." Frank ignored him. "No, you owe me. You married my daughter. You owe me a house, a car, my life back." Emma gasped. "Dad, stop." He didn't listen. "She's my blood. If she becomes rich, I should be rich." Ethan's voice went cold. "You sold her for a debt. You don't get to claim her now." Frank raised a fist. "You listen here, boy." Ethan stepped forward, unfazed. "Hit me if you want, but you will never hurt her again." Lucas raised an eyebrow, amused. "Touching. But let's be real. Donovan, if you're going public again, hiding with some small-town girl won't fit the image." Emma's heart shattered again. Lucas looked at her, smug. "Walk away from him now, Emma. Marry me instead. I can make you the wife of a known billionaire, not the hidden shame of one." Emma looked up at Ethan, at the man who lied, but held her when she cried, at the man who pretended to be poor, but was the first to ever give her peace. Then she looked at Lucas, smirking, confident, treating her like a prize to win, and then at her father, greedy, selfish, already spending money in his head. She wiped her tears and took a deep breath. Her choice would change everything. Her father wanted money. Lucas wanted power. Ethan wanted forgiveness. But Emma wanted truth. and in this moment she had to choose who she would believe. Money can build empires, but only love can build a home. And in this room, surrounded by greed, heartbreak, and truth, Emma Carter had to choose which one she belonged to. The tension hung heavy in the room. Frank Carter demanded riches. Lucas Hayes offered luxury. Ethan Donovan stood silently, guilt in his eyes, love in his voice without saying a word. And Emma had never felt so seen and unseen at the same time. Her father sneered. "Emma, don't be stupid. Walk away from this liar. Lucas is offering you real wealth, not fake love from a man who hid his name from you." Lucas smirked. "Be smart, Emma. Ethan used you. I'll elevate you." Ethan stepped forward gently. "Emma, I won't force you to stay. I'll accept whatever you choose. Just know, I never planned to hurt you. I only wanted to be loved as a man, not as a bank account. But I understand if you can't forgive me." Emma looked at all three men. Her father, who betrayed her. Lucas, who saw her as a trophy. Ethan, who lied, but protected her like she mattered. She inhaled shakily. Then she walked forward and stood beside Ethan. Her voice was steady. "I choose my husband." Lucas's smirk died instantly. Frank exploded. "You ungrateful child. After everything Emma turned to him, tears burning but voice firm. "Dad, you didn't protect me. You sold me. You don't get to claim my happiness now that money is involved." Frank froze, speechless. She turned to Lucas. "You don't love me. You love the idea of owning something someone else values." Lucas's jaw clenched, his superiority cracking. Finally, she turned to Ethan. "I don't know if I forgive you yet, but I know this. When I had nothing, you gave me peace. When I cried, you were patient. When I felt worthless, you reminded me I mattered. You lied, but you also loved me without asking for anything in return." Her voice softened. "And I loved that version of you, not the billionaire, but the man who cooked eggs and taught me to breathe at full stops." Ethan's eyes glistened. "I don't need a mansion," she whispered. "I just don't want to be sold again." Ethan took her hands gently. "You never will be. Not by me. I promise." Lucas scoffed, turning away. "Big mistake." Ethan stepped in front of him calmly. "No, Lucas. The mistake was thinking money makes you more worthy than love." Lucas stormed out. Frank tried to follow, pleading, "Lucas, maybe we can talk." But Lucas shoved him away. "Don't touch me. Your greed is disgusting." Frank turned back to Emma, suddenly desperate. "Sweetheart, please, I'm your father." Emma looked at him with quiet sadness. "A father doesn't trade a daughter like currency." He had no answer. Ethan placed a protective arm around Emma as Frank finally left, defeated. In that moment, the silence in the room wasn't empty, it was healing. 2 years later, the auditorium echoed with applause as Emma Donovan, wearing a crisp white teaching uniform, walked across the graduation stage to receive her certificate as a certified teacher. In the crowd, Ethan stood up and whistled playfully. "That's my wife!" Emma laughed shyly, tears in her eyes. When the ceremony ended, Ethan scooped her into his arms. "You did it." Emma shook her head, smiling. "No, we did it. You believed in me before I believed in myself." Ethan kissed her forehead. "And I'll keep believing every step of the way." Ethan drove her through a quiet, upscale neighborhood lined with blooming blossoms. She was now pregnant, gently rubbing her belly. "Why are we here?" She laughed. "Are we lost?" He grinned and stopped in front of a large white house with golden gates and a garden full of sunflowers. Emma froze. "Ethan?" He handed her a key. "Our home, Emma. We're not hiding anymore. You're my wife, my partner, my forever. Queens don't stay in shadows." Emma's eyes flooded with tears. "I don't need a castle. You're enough." He placed his hand on her belly and kissed her forehead. "You and our baby are my home. This," he gestured at the beautiful house, "is just a safer roof for our love." Emma hugged him tightly. She wasn't the girl who was sold anymore. She was the woman who was chosen, and who chose love back. The end. Moral of the story: true love is not blind. It sees beyond status, wealth, and lies. It chooses the heart, not the fortune. And when two hearts choose each other for the right reasons, even the weight of the world cannot break them. Did you enjoy this story? Kindly let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching.